giving a presentation, a live presentation tonight. We have Presonus here at YRS MIDI Systems in Castleberry, and we're going to show you the latest and the greatest in Presonus hardware that is just now being released, and you guys have to see what Presonus has in store for you guys now to take advantage of, so you can improve your sound quality and bring your production up to a higher level. So we have Richard, right, in house today. And so, Richard, the floor is yours. Welcome to YRS MIDI Systems.
Thanks. Well, thanks to the team for hosting us tonight, and we hope that those of you watching get a lot out of this. And so, a little bit about me. I am the product specialist for Presonus of all of North America. My background is that I have a degree in music. I was a church media director for 14 years. I did a lot of mixing for television, album projects, whatnot. I'm also a professional bass player. Have played professionally since the mid-90s. And so I've been with Presonus for about 6.5 years as their product specialist, and I also had a couple other positions within the company. But tonight I want to talk to you about a couple of products, our new interfaces, which is called Quantum. We have 4 different interfaces. We've got the ES line, which is the ES2 and the ES4. This is the ES4. ES2 has 2 inputs, a guitar input, a set of outputs, MIDI in and out. The ES4 is 2 guitar inputs, 4 mic and line inputs, 4 outputs with speaker switching, MIDI in and out. And they're both they're USB-C devices. In addition to the ES, we've got the HD series. We've got the HD2 and the HD8. The HD2 is sitting here on top of this Aris Studio 8 monitor. And so a few things about this this new line. You heard me mention the fact that we've got guitar inputs. So this is the first new interface product since Presonus was acquired by Fender. And so these guitar inputs were co-designed with the folks at Fender. And it's important that these are guitar level inputs, not to get too far in the weeds about signal and the electronics behind it. But there's essentially 4 different line impedances. There's microphone level, there's instrument level, there is consumer audio level, and then there's pro audio level. Microphone level is very weak. You do a lot more gain to it. Instrument level is the next one up. Then there's the consumer audio, and then there's the actual line level. Well, if you take an instrument, a guitar, for instance, and plug it into a line level input, you've got to turn it up a lot. That could add noise. This is meant for guitar level and is optimized for guitar and bass sounds, like to reproduce it. So that's why the guitar input is important. A few other features that we're gonna show you here in a second is auto gain, and you'll see this a few times in my demo, and then also loop back. So if I go here, our control software for Quantum is Universal Control. So if we cut to a shot of my screen share here, you'll see that I've got Universal Control up, and I'm talking on the microphone, and you see my meter moving on the microphone, but notice my fader is down. That is because I am coming to you via output 3 and 4 up here. So this is not only an audio interface, this is a streaming device. I can create a number of mixes and send them out into different streams. I could set a stream to go to Zoom. I can set a separate stream to go to a different playback medium, or I can set a stream to go to Zoom. I can also set a second stream to go to another broadcast facility, so they wouldn't have their microphones in their own stream, and I don't have my microphone in my own stream. And then we're feeding, together a Zoom or a YouTube Live or, all of that. So very, very easy to set up. Basically, you plug it in and it starts working. There are several features that I can do here. This also has ADAT light pipe in, so if I turn that on, you can see I've got all of these ADAT inputs. There's 16 that I can pull. This is expandable. I can hook this up with an HD8. HD8 is 8 in, 8 out. I can have 3 HD8s for a total of 24, or I can have an HD8 and an HD2, which is 2 in and out. So I can have a total of 10 inputs. So it's expandable because of ADAT light pipe. Loop back, that's what we were just saying. If I turn that off, you can see those loop back channels went away. You see there's my digital ins and all of that. So lots of functions I can choose, speaker switching and all of that. And speaker switching is important because let's say I've got a set of A monitors, which is these Aris Studio 8s. And I've got another smaller set of monitors. Well, I can have my Studio 8s plugged into my outputs 1 and 2, and I can have a smaller set, let's say Aris 3.5, plugged into 3 and 4. I can switch between the two by here, the A and B, they're grayed out because I don't have it turned on. But I can go from my larger speakers to my smaller speakers, or I can have my A speakers be a regular stereo pair and my B speaker be a subwoofer, and so I can make it be A or B or A plus B. If I do A plus B, I can just turn off the subwoofer by hitting the B key and it goes away, or I hit the B key again and it turns back on. So that's speaker switching. I can go between two sets, or I can go between I can have one set on all the time and turn the other one on and off. That's the A plus B. So let's move on. We're gonna jump into some Studio One stuff here. So I'm gonna go over to Studio One. Studio One 6 Pro is what I'm using. And an interesting thing about Presonus, and this is one of our strong suits, is that we make hardware and we make software. Oh, let me go back to the HD2 before moving on. This is also controllable via iPad or phone, so a tablet or a phone. So if I move this fader here, you would see it moving on the screen, and it would be the same thing if I did this from my phone. If you can see here on my phone, if I move the fader on my phone, you should see it moving on in UC, but it doesn't. Looks like I have something else connected there. But so that is another benefit. All you have to do is be on the same Wi-Fi network that your computer's on, and then you'll be able to remote control it from a phone or from a laptop, which is, Presonus is actually the company that invented wireless mixing. You go to a venue and you see somebody mixing from a laptop or an iPad or a tablet. We actually are the ones who invented that. So we've been doing this technology a long time, and we've incorporated that into our interfaces for remote mixing in the quantum environment. So let's move to Studio One. And I want to show you a few things that Studio One does really well, and how the quantum and its workflow works alongside Studio One, giving you a great hand-in-hand solution. So this is the main page of Studio One. You can see here to the left, I've got this first pane, which is where all my files live, songs, projects, which is mastering. I can do all of my mastering all within Studio One. It's a great addition into the software ecosystem, in that if I'm mastering a song and it was mixed in Studio One, and I hear something that's not a mastering thing but a mix thing, I can open it right from the project page, go back to Studio One, correct it, and when I save it and open it up in the projects, it makes the change for me. It's called Dynamic Link. I don't have to mix down a whole other file and then go back and do it. All of my mastering functions are there. I've just tweaked my mix and pulled it back in. The shows is Studio One's song page. This allows me, if I were doing a live stream as a performer or even a local gig or whatever, I could take songs that I've recorded in Studio One and I could mix them down, and then let's just say, so I'm a bass player and a singer. I could take my bass EQ and compression and all of that, and I could take my vocals and use what I used when I did my recording, pull them into the show page along with my mix that I made minus my bass and minus my vocal, and I've got everything that goes on the record plus how I sounded on the record all played within Studio One to my live audience. I could do this as a streaming solution or as a live performance thing. So that's what the show page is. So let's go back. Recent files obviously is just where all of my just things that I've used lives. In the middle here is my artist profile. You can set up a picture, what genre you are, your own website. If you have a SoundCloud account, you can link your SoundCloud account right to this and upload songs from SoundCloud straight from Studio One. Over here on the right side is the news feed. This is everything that's happening at Presonus with regards to our software, tutorials, different things that are important for people to know. You can find it right there. All right, moving on. A while ago I mentioned that we make the hardware and the software. So if I were to click New, I've got several things that I can choose here, templates or my own user template. So if I go down here to audio interfaces, when I click audio interfaces, Studio One looks at my interface, and if I have a Presonus interface, it tells me I am looking at the HD2. And if I click OK on the HD2, it's going to open up with all of my possibilities for recording all ready to go. All I got to do, and it's routed, all I got to do is hit record, and I'm in channel 2 on the microphone. I think I am. Oh, the instrument is plugged in. What am I plugged into? Yeah, I'm in channel 2, and so I would be able to, because it's I have an instrument plugged into it. Oh, here we go. In1, into. See, there's my microphone right there. So it's all right there for me. So we're going to get out of this, and we're just going to start from scratch. We're going to do a new song and just record a mix. So we're going to start with a blank slate. So what I want to do is I'm just going to basically do a song here just right in front of you guys from nothing using Quantum. I'm also going to use the Presonus Atom, which is a pad controller, 16 pads, and this you can use it to activate our Impact XT plugin. You can do samples, you can do pre-programmed drum sounds and all of that. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to go to my instruments here, and then Impact is right there. I'm just going to grab this Easy Kit. And look at this, how quick this is going to be. I'm just going to drag this to the open area of my arrange window, and I now have a pad controller controlling all of my sounds for this one sound patch. So we're going to be in 4/4 time. Let's just do about 74 beats a minute. I'm going to turn on my click, and I'm going to give myself a 1-bar pre-count. So when I hit record, I'm going to get 4 beats for nothing, and then I'm going to do a little kick and snare, little drum beat. I'm going to do like a little 4-measure thing. I'll tell you right now, I'm not the greatest pad controller guy. It's going to be off tempo. I know it. I own it. So let's go. So there is my loop I just made. Now, if I were to play this back to the click, you would certainly hear that it's not dead on, right? Because I know I didn't play it dead on. But just as easy it was for me to drag that into the arrange window and it opened the software instrument for me, I'm going to use a hotkey, a quick key, and in Studio One, I'm going to quantize this, and I'm going to quantize this to eighth notes. So I'll select my eighth notes. And to quantize this, I'm just going to hit the Q key, Q for quantize. So we make sure it's highlighted. And when I hit the Q key, it might be difficult to see on your screen, but all these little dots and dashes, they're gonna change a little bit. So when I hit Q, which is now, go, I don't know if you noticed a few of them changed. Now, this is locked. It's locked to the beat. So let's add a hi-hat to that. I could come here and do that with this, but I'm not going to. I'm going to double-click this file here, and then there's my hi-hat, right? If I set my quantize to be eighth notes, I can come over here to this, to the paint tool, and literally just drag it across all four measures, and now I have kick, snare, hat. Literally that simple. Let me turn off the metronome and you can hear it. So, actually I didn't do it long enough. I didn't go all the way to the end of the... Yeah. So now we have kick, snare, hat. Now, if I want to put reverb on this, this is important to talk about here. Not only is this a drum editor, but if I go to my mixer, what differentiates this from some other systems out there, if I create a drum track, it's the note data, it's all one track, and I'm married to it as one track. I'm married to this as one track, but within this track, it's separating this into each their own channel. So I've got, if I go back and play this, you will see kick, snare, and hat are each operating on their own tracks within this instrument. So very important to know, because I'm not just going to put a reverb over all of it. I could put a different reverb on the kick as I would on the snare and the hi-hat. And so the way to do this, I would just click Effects, and it was these three channels that I'm using. So I'm going to click the first one, click the third one, and then I'll just go over here, Effects, and find a reverb. And let's just grab, I don't know, a cathedral. That's going to be, well, let's do Cold Cellar. If I drag it over here to the sins, Studio One is going to create a sin with that room reverb in there. It's going to make the sins for me, assign them all a -6 level, which obviously I don't want the kick to have that much reverb, so I'm going to pull that down. And now when I play it, there's my reverb. A little too much reverb, so I'm just going to back it off just a touch. And let's set this to be a loop up here. And I'm going to turn this on, and you can hear the loop. So the kick's a little drier, the snare and the hi-hat are a little wetter, and I did that all within the instrument. I didn't have to create a separate kick track, and then a separate snare track, and then a separate hi-hat track, all within my arrange window. It's all one track, but they're separated within that track. So really, really cool feature. I'm not going to have like 100 tracks and a bunch of it being drums. I just have one drums track. So what I want to do now is I want to make this longer. I want to add in measures. In a lot of applications, I would do a copy paste, but notice my cursor here, the playback telling me where we are. It's right in the middle of measure 1. In a lot of DAW scenarios out there, if I did a copy paste, I would copy this, and if I hit paste, it would paste it where that cursor is, meaning I would have this oddball quarter and some change measure, and then my 4 measure loop. That's not how Studio One does it. Remember, we just quantized it with the letter Q. I am going to duplicate this. So it's highlighted. I just hit the letter D, and I am duplicating this, and I can do this ad nauseum forever. Or if I wanted this to be really long, I could highlight some of them or all of them and hit duplicate, and I've now created this very long track just by hitting one key. So there's my drum track. Now, let's add a bass part to this. So just as we did Q for quantize and D for duplicate, I'm going to create a track. And so you could probably already guess what key I'm going to hit for track. Anyone here want to venture a guess what that might be? T. Give the man a gold star. So I'm going to hit the T key. I am plugged in here to Quantum Channel 1 guitar input. So I'm going to name this bass. I'm selecting it to be an audio track. It's going to be mono, and it's going to pull from the left input from my Quantum. And to show you this, I go Preferences. There's my Quantum HD2 in and out. If I do my song setup, my audio setup, you can see my inputs are 1 and 2. My outputs are left and right, going from main left and main right. Actually, what you're hearing me coming through is outputs 3 and 4, but I've routed the main output of the Quantum to outputs 3 and 4, which is feeding the mix that you're hearing at home. So that's where that is. So I'm going to grab my bass. Hang on just a second. Make sure that I routed this correctly. Input left, audio. There we go. Instrument in. Check, check. Just a second here. And confirm that I'm plugged in the right place. Unplug this for now. And then I'm ready to record. So I've got my bass. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to turn these off. I don't need to see any of this. But I'm going to select my input. And you can see there's my bass guitar. And if I pull this up, we'll start to hear it. Where are you at, bass? But if I just flew with this thing yesterday. So it's been kind of, reacclimating to the room. So I know that this is going to be not exactly in tune. So I go to my browser, I come down, and I can grab a tuner. I can put it here on the input side, and I can go ahead and tune my instrument. So hang on just a second, folks. I chose the wrong input. Hang on. I'm input 1. There we go. I put it on the wrong one. So there we go. have to do this with a harmonic because low B is really low. 30.8 hertz. So we'll get that as close as we can. And this is probably going to move around a little bit as we go on throughout the night. Again, this is just like starting to get acclimated here. So we've got our bass. I'm going to turn it up a little bit where I can hear it here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay a bass part to this. But before I do this, I'm going to do a function within the quantum that will allow me to get the right gain. And I'm going to do this for every bass part I cut. It's called auto gain. So it's going to be difficult to see, but basically I'm going to hit auto gain, then I'm going to hit the input that I want, and then I'm going to hit auto gain again, and then I'm just going to play a little bit. And so I'm going to actually play the bass part that I'm going to play, and then the quantum is going to set up my gain for me. So auto gain, this. So you can see there, I have my, I started to do the auto gain thing. It was probably difficult for you to see, but I hit auto gain, I hit 1 because I'm coming into track 1, channel 1, and then I hit auto gain again, and this blue volume light turned red, and it gave me a countdown, and the whole time it was counting down, it was analyzing what I was playing and providing the perfect gain level for the track I'm about to cut. Right? So I'm going to do the same thing that we did before. I'm going to give myself a 1-bar pre-roll, and let's go ahead and cut a bass part. One to the 4, back to the 1, back to the 4, gonna shake it up a bit, go to 6, back to the 4, back to the 1, to the 5. Okay? And then I stopped it a little bit after. I am going to just drag this here. I wasn't crazy about the fact that I did this. Bomb. I don't like that. What I'm going to do, though, is I am going to control-click this track. I'm going to turn on gain envelope, which this is our what we call clip gain. I'm going to put a node here and a node here, and I'm just going to get rid of it. So it's gone. And this isn't like a fader automation. This is treating the actual waveform. I'm getting rid of it. So imagine, for those of you who know like what a compressor and a limiter does, if I had volume automation, that's just making things louder. Clip gain is actually affecting the gain, the input signal. So if I wanted to compress something a little bit harder, volume automation would just make it louder. Clip gain, I could push it into the compressor. So I'm doing this like at the waveform level. So I'm a decent bass player, but I know that wasn't perfect, so we're going to quantize, and I'm going to hit Q. And now this is perfectly locked in to the... And I also don't like that I played that first note long. So, and I'll just do the same thing there. Put a node, put another node here. I'll put another node here. We'll bring that down. We'll bring that down. So I created basically a perfect bass track for this. Now, I want to duplicate. So, D key. Now we've got 16 bars of the song. So now let's add a guitar part to this. Now I'm playing a 6-string bass here, so this is going to be, I'm going to kind of fake a little guitar part for this. So remember, I'm just going to hit the T key. I'm still coming into input left, but we're just going to change this to guitar. Now for sake of time, I'm only going to do one guitar track, but if we were doing this for real in the studio, I would do 2, and I would pan one to the left and one to the right just to get the bigger feel. But for this purpose, I'm just going to do one so that you can kind of see what we're talking about here. So I click OK, and I go and get ready to record. I'm going to turn off the record for the bass, and there's my guitar. I could do the auto gain again. I won't, just for sake of time. So let's go, and I am going to cut a guitar part. So I totally pooched that right there when we went to the 5 chord. So no big deal. I know when I screw up. So I'm just going to back up, and we'll just start here, and I'll... Okay. Literally, I'm just now going to drag to about like right there, highlight both of them. X does a crossfade, and there it is. It's going out of tune a little bit, but you get the drift. Highlight them both, hit D, but because I didn't set my I got to set the end of the track to be the right place. Highlight them both, D. Okay, and there's my track. All right, so, okay, Richard, great. You programmed some drums, you played bass, and you played guitar as a bass player. Let's do something different now, and I want to put a little melodic figure on this. Now, if I were gonna, I've got this idea. The C major arpeggio. If I was going to play this as a bass player playing something melodic, I might play like, or just something like that. But that's not what I want. I want to hear just those notes. So I'm going to do my darn level best to play just those notes. And because I'm going to play with a little bit different approach, I'm going to auto gain this as well. So remember, we're going to go T key, and let's just call this, melodic figure, melfig. Left. Going to turn off the bass there. See, I have it here. So I'm going to play. I'm going to do the auto gain and set our gain. Okay, so you heard it kick in there. So now I'm going to play this a little, not as aggressive as I played the bass line. But because of that, I'm auto gaining to get it up hotter. And again, I'm going to do my best just to play. And this is going to make sense after I record. So. Mess it up already. Wait for the B1. Okay, and that's all I need. I'm going to go here. I'm going to trim it to beginning of measure 3. And that's my figure. Now, I'm going to drag this all the way to 1. I'm going to hit Q. We're going to quantize it. We're going to make it rhythmically perfect. But this is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to take this, I'm going to duplicate it. Hang on just a second. Oh, that's what I did wrong. I had my start at the wrong spot. No big deal. Drag it there, pull it forward. And we're gonna stop here. And because I had it the wrong length, it got a crazy duplication. So now I'm gonna duplicate. So, but I'm playing 1 3 5 1 5 3 1 3 5 3 1. But when we get to the 5 chord, that's not gonna work over the 5 chord. So what I'm gonna do now, actually before duplicating, I'm gonna do a Command M, and I'm gonna open up. Melodyne comes within Studio One, and back when Melodyne was, getting its footing and being used with DAWs, you had to take your track, you had to output your track, you had to mix it to its own track, then you had to bring that track into Melodyne, you had to do all of your tuning, and then you had to export it from Melodyne tuned, and then you had to bring it back into your DAW and then see if it worked. Well, along came a function called ARA 2.0, which allows plugins like this to work within the DAW. Other DAWs do it now. We were the first to do it. We had ARA 2.0, and we did a joint venture with Celemony to create Melodyne within Studio One. So we just made this rhythmically perfect. Now let's make it tonically perfect. I've selected. I'm going to click this button here. I'm going to say I want it perfect pitch center, and I want to get rid of any vibrato that I might have played. So now this is a rhythmically perfect track here. Okay, now I don't want this to be a bass sound. I want it to be something else. Well, because I have brought it into Melodyne, not only did I make it, by quantizing it, I made it rhythmically perfect, but in Melodyne I made it tonally perfect. Melodyne is also a MIDI note data extraction tool. Notice the little dashes on my notes there, similar to what you see in my drum track. This is MIDI note data that Melodyne extracted. So if I go to my browser and I go to my instruments and I go and grab MyTi as one of our virtual instruments. So I'm going to go to MyTi and let's choose a bell sound in MyTi. And I'm going to take, let's see, Belladonna, where are you at? The very first one. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I am going to, and just to make sure that I do it good there, I got some empty space here. Remember, I drug Impact XT over and put it into that empty area. I'm going to drag the same thing, a different virtual instrument. I'm going to drag Belladonna, and that's MyTi. Okay, now I have an audio track that has some note data, and I have an instrument track. All I have to do is grab my audio track and drag it down into my instrument track. I'm going to mute my audio track, and now we have I've got a bell sound that I played from the bass guitar. Now, if I want that to not be these tones, if I want to pick it up by an octave, I can just select them all. I'm not sure what this is up here. Yeah, so I can select them all and bring C3 up to C4, And now, so that should be up here. Okay, so I've got this bell sound. Let's make it a little more complicated. Let's say I want to add another sound with it. Let's say I want to do like another bell sound. So let's just grab another one here. So if I drag it here, Studio One is going to give me some options. I can cancel, which means never mind, I'm going to stay with Belladonna. I can load it, which means replace Belladonna with this tri-table, I guess it's called. Or I could combine the two. When I click combined, notice I've got both of those instruments together, and now we get a really cool, complicated sound. So let's roll with that. So now I'm going to duplicate. Duplicate again. Duplicate again. But here we go. That don't make any sense. So I'm going to double click it, and this, I'm going to change these two notes down a whole step. I'll leave that on the 5, and I'll bring this down to the 7. Simple as that. Literally, I just created a whole thing, and then I'm going to duplicate just all of that. So from the bass guitar of all things, I created a bell track using Melodyne within Studio One. So you can see, I mean, we're 1, 2, 3, 4 really tracks in, because we're not going to keep that melodic figure. I'm 4 tracks in, and this is already sounding like a pretty produced piece, right? It's starting to sound like a complete work. So let's step away from the bass for a second, and let's put some vocals on this. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do a vocal, background vocal part. I won't do a doubled part just for sake of time. If I were doing this for real in the studio, obviously I would double it, triple track it, whatever. But I want to show you another thing that we can do with Melodyne with recorded audio. Let's go. So this is I'm on channel 2 in my Quantum. So I'm going to hit track, and let's just call this BGV1. I'm going to be on input, on the right input. When I click OK, come to my mixer. Let's mute all of this. I mean, not mute it, but we'll mute the melodic figure. So there we have for my vocal part. Now, I would do an auto gain on this, but that's going to ruin my mix going to the stream. So I'm just going to kind of make sure that I'm not, singing way too loud in the microphone. All right, so let's come back here, BGV1. I'm going to give myself 4 bars for nothing. I'm not listening to direct sound in here. I'm listening to studio monitors that are facing that way, and I don't have any headphones in my ears right now. So this may get weird pitch-wise. No big deal. We have Melodyne. So let me do this, and I'm going to do a full 4 bars with my vocal. Ooh. So I turned down the speakers halfway through that, just in case we would get any sort of bleed, because what I'm about to do is going to be pretty important. So we want to make sure that, see, I didn't record long enough, so I won't be able to do a duplicate. I could do a duplicate, but I'll have to shift it over. I'm going to take this into Melodyne, Command M, and I'm just going to make it rhythmically perfect. Tonally perfect. I'm going to select my pitch center to be 100%, and let's just go pitch drift 48, 50%. Pitch drift allows for vibrato. I don't know if I did much vibrato, but I want to allow for it because I don't want it to sound right. I want it to have a little fluctuation there. So I click OK, and there is my track. Now, I'm going to bounce this in place because I'm going to do some other Melodyne stuff, and so let me go ahead. Command B bounces that track in place. I'll do a duplication of it, but oh, cool! It put it there. So that's my BGV1. Let's create a harmony to this. And actually, let me just delete this because I'm going to do it for 3 of them. So if I hold down this track and hold the Option key on my Mac and drag it down, Studio One is going to create, what happened here? Option, grab, and track. Studio One is going to make an exact duplicate of the track that I just had. Now, I'm going to Command M, open in Melodyne, and remember I sang 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 2. But let's add a higher harmony to this. 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 6, 5. So, right? I'm going to drag all of this up. Actually, let me see. That was when I still had the. I don't know if you can hear that at home, but you can hear the snare and the stuff that's bleeding through the speakers. That's right before I turned it down. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to take up to the 5. But then this is a half step. So I'm going to grab all those half steps and make them whole steps. And I'm going to take this, which is now a whole step down, and put it here. Now, I'm going to bounce that in place. Pretty cool. Let's do it again. Option grab, down, create a new track, Melodyne, and now let's go to the root, and we're going to do root, 7. So I'm going to grab them all. I'm going to take what is now a flat 9 and bring it to the root, and I'm going to take what's now a flat 7 and bring it, and now we have our 3-part harmony. That's loud. The vocals are loud, but I pulled them down a little bit, and then let's highlight them all, duplicate them, and now we've got the full track there. So again, we're 8 tracks in, minus my melodic figure that I did on the bass and converted it to the note data. So really, we're 7 tracks in. If you want to count kick, snare, hat as 3 tracks, we're like 9 tracks, and this sounds like a complete work, because of how, all the things that I can do with Studio One. Now, let's add a guitar solo to this, and I'm going to do this from the bass. So we're going to go here. I'm going to hit the T key, and just call this guitar solo. I'm coming into the input left. Let's move it down to here. There we go. Remember, I had that tuner. So let's just check my tuning, make sure that my bass is I know it's still acclimating from the plane yesterday. So I'm not going to be using these lower notes, but I just want to tune them anyway. Okay. So let's do some sort of solo on this. So I kind of pooched the end of that, but we'll leave it. By now you're tired of watching me play bass, but thank you. Play some Skinner. So I didn't do the auto tune, so this could have been better. So my bells are loud. That was supposed to be bum, ba, da, da, bum. See if I can fix it. Say that again?
Is there polyphonic pitch correction?
There is. So the question was, is there polyphonic pitch correction? Studio One comes with Melodyne Essentials, which is a single note pitch correction. Melodyne, I think it's called Producer or Melodyne Editor, is their polyphonic version. You would have to buy that upgrade if you want that, and you could manipulate chords. You could make a C, add another note, make it like a C6, and do all these kind of stuff. Flat the whatever. You can tune chords. That would be an upgrade purchase. Should you want to do that, you'd purchase that from Melodyne and then open it in Studio One. But Studio One comes with Melodyne Essentials. Studio One Artist, for those who still have it, has a 30-day trial period to Melodyne. Those who have purchased Studio One Plus, Studio One Pro, Studio One Hybrid, they have a Melodyne Essentials baked into Studio One. So,
Another question?
yes, one quick question.
So the polyphonic version, the pro version or whatever it is of Melodyne, does it install and do you use it? Is it utilized exactly the same way as the Elements version is?
So So the question was, does the polyphonic version work within Studio One just the way that I did it here with Essentials? And the answer is yes. It works the exact same way. You're just doing it with multiple notes instead of one at a time. So, if I had like my chord of background vocals, like if I recorded, that as all like three singers around one microphone, we could have taken that in a Melodyne and individually, fixed some stuff. Now that would get weird because if I fix the pitch of you singing one note while I'm singing this note, changing your pitch would get a little weird. But I mean, like for keyboard stuff, for guitar stuff, like things like that, because you can isolate those notes. Three people singing around a microphone, they're not isolated. But if I recorded three of us and then mixed that down to be one thing where they were isolated, then I could change those pitches individually. But yes, the answer to that is it operates exactly the same way. So let me see if I can just... So I hit my 3 key, which allows me to cut, and 1 allows me to delete it. drag that back a little bit. And actually, if I take my quantize up to like 64th notes, you can see I got a lot of little tabs there. I can drag this by 64th notes. And little anticipation there. I'll put a teeny tiny. Not so bad. So I just repaired it. All right. So just as we did before with Melodyne, I want to show you something that's pretty cool. Let me go ahead and bounce this to be one track. So in Melodyne, I'm going to Command M, and we'll just make sure that these are all tonically perfect. Now this next thing I'm going to do, it won't be perfect. It would require a little bit of massaging, but I just want you to kind of get the idea here of something that you can do. So just as we created the pad sound from the bass melodic figure, and I am going to create a string part from this bass solo that I did. So let me just drag this in here to an empty spot, and there's our string sound, little string ensemble sound. Now if I drag this down, we now have, and if I mute this, so that's low. We're going to take it. Bum. I'm going to take all, actually, let's just select them all. And again, this isn't going to be perfect. So like I said, it's not perfect, but the reason why I wanted to open that, to do that, is I want to show you something really, really cool that came out with Studio One 6. I can't remember if it was 6 or 6.5. If I click on this, remember earlier when we were doing the drum editing stuff, I had it here, and we could see those drum little nodes when we did the programming thing, and I wrote the drum, the hi-hat in. But then when we did the other thing where we had the notes, we saw those dashes. Well, this is that drum editor, but if I click this treble clef, this is our score editor. I just took a bass solo, recorded it into Studio One, brought it into Melodyne, assigned it a MIDI note sound, a virtual instrument, and now I can see written note what I played. So, string players. I played in a professional orchestra for a few years. I was the principal bass player in a college orchestra for when I was in music school. String players don't play by ear. Fiddle players do. String players, orchestra players, they do not play by ear. It's written note, and so if they're just playing something, they memorize it. They typically don't just go to a session and start playing by ear like a bass player could or a guitar player could. So you got to give them music. Well, I just did that. I could literally print this out and go play that. Right, and they would nail it because they're monsters at reading music. Well, what if I didn't want it to be a string instrument? What if we wanted to go to something else? So I would, where am I at? Track. So staff type, standard tuning. Standard tablature. There's a lot of guitar players, a lot of bass players out there who don't read music, but they read tablature. I just created a tab track of that bass solo that we made a string part, but now it's in tablature. But let's go beyond that. So this is for a guitar player. I can change this and be a bass player, 5-string, 6-string bass. Look, drop D, 7-string, banjo, all of these things. Let's leave it on guitar, but check this out. Tab strings, the E1, A1, D2, D2, the standard guitar, E minor 11 tuning. Let's just say somebody's playing DAD-GAD, D-A-D, G-A-D. I can change that to be D1, A1, D2, G2, A2, D3. And now if they're playing a DAD-GAD tuning, we've got tablature that they can play from right there. So we started talking about the quantum, and the new interfaces here. Quantum users can be anything from music makers, guys doing streaming. As we saw, I had Universal Control open. We are listening to a secondary output. You're hearing a secondary output of Studio One in my microphone. Same thing for the streaming crowd. You can create a separate mix for them. People who do teleconferencing, Zoom calls and that kind of stuff. The quantum is perfect for that because I do trainings all the time. I do a monthly webinar. I do Studio One demos all the time over the internet where I will use my quantum. I used to use a revelator, but now I use a quantum, where I'm creating a mix for those listening at home. I don't have my microphone on in front of me because I don't want to create feedback and I don't want it to be weird and airy for the people listening. So people who are doing streaming, quantum's a perfect interface for them, especially ES2, ES4. And then the guitar players, guitar input and all of that. So one last thing I want to show you, and this is for the guitar players. Give me just a second to plug one thing in. This is going to be a little difficult for the folks at home to hear, but Quantum ES2 and ES4 don't have this feature, but Quantum HD2 and HD8 do, and it's called reamp. Now, remember earlier I talked about the impedance of a guitar input. It's different from a line level. It's different from a microphone level. It's different from pro audio level, which is line level. It's different from consumer audio level. What this allows us to do is, let's just say I'm a traveling musician, a working musician. I have a guitar idea. I put it down. I can use an amp model and everything, and it sounds good and it works. But I really want to record that through an amplifier. Or I've really worked on my solo and I got it down, but I want to hear the sound of a mic'd amplifier. Before now, with other interfaces, you can do this with like an add-on of like $150 and it goes up from there. It's called reamp. It's built into HD2. It's built into HD8. What will happen here is I will be able to map my guitar solo through Studio One out to the reamp feature, and I've got an amplifier down here to my right. You at home, you're not going to be able to hear it. Everyone who's here will hear it. I could then mic that amplifier and record another track with the sound that I'm happy with. Now, guitar players will immediately understand this. You're searching for that right sound. You're searching for that tone that's going to be awesome. What do? Chord, 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 tweak. Chord, 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 tweak. Chord, 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 tweak, right? Forever. Play a riff, tweak. Play a riff, tweak. Play your whole solo and go, I don't like that sound. And then you do it over and over and over again. It's perfect, right? Well, I can create my perfect take and then worry about my perfect sound after and let the computer play the perfect take over and over and over again until I've created my perfect sound. So let me show you how we do that. In Studio One, I'm going to go to my preferences and my song setup. I'm going to choose my outputs here, I'm going to create a mono output. It's going to be called sub 1, and I can name it whatever, let's just call it guitar patching. I misspelled that. Okay. And I'm going to send guitar patching to reamp 1, which I have, and it's going to be difficult to see. The front of the HD2 has guitar in 1, guitar in 2, guitar out 1, guitar out 2. So reamp 1 comes from guitar out 2. So I click OK, and we turn on the amp. And I go to my mix, guitar solo. I take it away from the main, and I patch it to guitar patching. So I can create my perfect take. I can loop this and let it play forever and ever and ever until I've created my perfect sound. Then I can mic the cabinet in any way I choose, or choose a line out or whatever. I can put 100 mics in the room, different microphones, whatever, and then re-record it. Auto gain coming back in from the amplifier, and then it's perfect. When I'm done with that, if I want more flavor, I grab another amp, and I do the exact same thing as many times as I want. And I never had to play it a second time. I played it once. Well, I played it until my solo was perfect. And then after it was perfect, tonically and rhythmically, I could make it perfect sonically. So that gives you an idea of how Quantum, specifically HD2 and HD8 in this instance, works with Studio One. So let's backtrack. We talked about Quantum, Studio One. I walked in here, we sat down, we hooked everything up. I did a drum track from the Atom. I wrote in a hi-hat part, tracked a bass part. And I didn't really do a whole lot of stuff with EQ or compression. That's all simple stuff. It's a drag and drop. I drag a compressor to the track, drag an EQ, all of that. You saw me make an effects bus with the hi-hat and the kick drum by just dragging the effect to, hi-hat, snare, and the kick. I drug the effect to the sends. Studio One made the bus for me, and I'm done. Then we did the little guitar part, which I would have doubled if we were really, doing this for real. And then I played that little melodic line. We converted it to the bell part. And then I changed the notes on the bell part using the piano score editor. Then we made the background vocal. We made one background vocal part, which I would have doubled if this was a real thing. And then we made a 3-part harmony out of it. I never had to sing another note. And then I did a bass solo. We made it a string sound and made sheet music out of it. Then we took that and brought it into an amplifier with the correct impedance where we could get the right sound, and I could have recorded that again, and I would have my complete work. No other software and hardware works together like this than the Presonus. I would call this the Studio One and Quantum ecosystem. Nothing else works this way. So that concludes this demonstration. I don't know if I'm supposed to kick it back to you, or if there have been any online questions.
1, 2, 3.
Or does anyone here have any questions? No questions? All right. What's that? Okay. No questions. That's a first. Yeah. So back to you.
All right, one moment. Just setting up the camera here again. All right, so I'm very excited to be here with the Presonus family, reviewing the hardware and the software. One of the things that I'm excited about when it comes to Presonus is how fast Presonus develops all of their software and hardware. If you look at where they've come from, where they started, right now Presonus is at a much higher level when it comes to all of the features and things that they offer. And even just Presonus Studio One, the software by itself is incredible, regardless of any interface that you use it with.
Right.
And but when you use it with the Presonus interface like this one here, it's gonna give you more capabilities, expand your power,
Yeah.
a lot more than using other
Right.
audio interfaces.
Yeah, like I showed at the very beginning, I opened the tab that I chose the Quantum to be my interface,
Right.
and all of my tracks were routed. Everything was ready to go. We've tried to create ecosystems of products that that make the shortest distance between having an idea and getting it down. I'm an old analog guy, so I'll use the word on tape. We don't record a tape anymore. It's the hard drives, but now it's the solid state drives. But yeah, we wanted to create things that have the shortest distance between having an idea and having it recorded, where then you can build upon it. And
Right.
so, yes, our software works with any manufacturer's interface, and our interfaces work with any manufacturer's software. But when you take our interfaces and our software, you have this tight integration like no one else.
Absolutely. And so, what I see is that if I buy into the Presonus ecosystem, I can feel secure in that the future Presonus will not let me down because of the flexibility that Presonus offers with all of their features. Unlike, for example, certain companies, you're not 100% sure where you're going to be in the future with that setup. Are you going to have the same powers, the same capabilities 10 to 15 years from now if you invest, in that equipment? Well, with Presonus, you can be pretty sure that you're still going to be ahead of the curve, 10 to 15 years from now with this type of setup. And I want to let everyone know, this is based on my personal experience with Presonus Studio One, is that regardless of what software you're coming from, whether you currently use Logic, Pro Tools, Cubase, which they're all great software, and we work with them here as well at YRS and the Maestro's Music Studio. When you switch to Presonus One, you're not missing out on any features whatsoever, because Presonus Studio One is always adding new features to their software. So if you purchase Studio One today, and for whatever reason you happen to find a little feature that it does not have that another software has, I can tell you with certainty that you can post on the community forum, or you can send the Presonus team an email, and they're paying attention to all of the features that the customers are requesting, and they're one of the fastest companies to actually integrate those features from the time that the customers are requesting it to their next update. And that's one of the things that I have admired about Studio One.
Cool.
And not only that, also one of the most important things for me is the sound quality that Presonus Studio One produces. You can use Presonus Studio One for recording, composing, mixing, and whatever you're using it for, you're going to get top-notch audio quality, and it has its own flavor of sound, right? I remember, I don't know if they still have this on the website, but years ago, Presonus Studio One on their website for as a part of the promotion, it had a little smiley emoticon with a wink,
Okay.
and it said, "You're gonna love the sound. Trust us."
Nice.
Do you remember that?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, I don't know if that's still on there, but
I don't think so. Yeah, but
basically, they have a little wink because they work on giving you a good quality sound within the program, within the mixing features, behind the scenes, even from what you're doing. The program is helping you sound better.
So I would say to that, we hear people say, oh, this sounds better, this sounds warmer, all these things. What we have chosen to do, and it kind of goes in line with what I was talking about a while ago about the shortest trip between idea to getting it down. It's the same way in the way that we design our preamps, we design like our recording, all of our codecs and all of that. We don't do anything to it to alter the sound. So people might say, "Oh, Pro Tools sounds bigger," whatever. Well, what does that? First of all, what does that even mean? Second of all, if something sounds different than what it sounded like when you recorded it, is that necessarily a good thing? Are you gonna record 50 tracks that all sound bigger and then have to do a bunch of EQ stuff in post production? We have strived to be accurate. So when you are happy with the sound you're ready to put down on tape to your hard drive, when you play it back, it sounds more like that. That's our goal, is to make it sound as much like that as possible. And so we try to produce with our mic pre's, XD Max preamps, super high headroom, 75 dB of gain, which is crazy. What I was talking about earlier for the podcaster folks,
Yeah.
The PD70 isn't a very high gain microphone. Shure SM7B is out there. You got to use a cloud lifter, is another couple $100. You don't need it with this. But anyway, our mic pre's and then the recording software, we do less to it so that it sounds more like it did when you were happy to put it down.
Awesome.
So that's kind of
Okay.
we do less to the stuff.
Awesome. Awesome.
so-
Well, maybe by doing less, that's what helps us achieve a better quality.
Yeah, it's just truer. It's truer
result.
to the source.
Right, truer to the source. And one of the other things that I really appreciate about the Studio One software is its ease of use. They make it as easy as possible for the first-time user to get used to the software, because Studio One is one of the first DAWs to include many drag and drop features right within the software, which after Studio One did it, then other softwares started, trying to copy that. But Studio One allows you to drag and drop effects and so many other things that are included in there as part of the package onto either MIDI tracks, audio tracks, or clips. You can drag and drop an effect on a clip, which other programs just don't let you do that yet. Not only that, the power within Studio One, it lets you take a production all the way from the beginning to end, where, because they're including all of those features right within, because Studio One has a section for mastering by itself, right?
Yep.
Whereas
The project page.
the project page. Whereas most other softwares don't have a separate page only for mastering. You literally have to use the same workspace that you would use for mixing, editing, recording, to master within that same workspace. But Presonus saw ahead and said, you know what, let's go ahead and integrate features just for mastering by itself to take it to the next level. And that's awesome. And what other things are integrated in Studio One that other softwares may not have?
Well, like we were talking before, the mastering, the project page. I kind of alluded to this earlier. You can mix in Studio One. Let's just say that you and I are working on an album together, and you're my mastering engineer, and I have mixed it in DAW A, and I get it to you, and you go, Richard, you got problems with this. It's not something that mastering can fix. These are mix errors. So you tell me what you feel like I should fix. So I go back to DAW A and I fix them. And then I send you the track again and you go 75% there, man. Keep, work this, blah, blah, blah. And we do this back and forth.
Yeah.
So I got to bounce it every single time. And if anybody's been if anybody's been doing this any length of time, you know I've got mix 1, mix 2, mix 3, mix 4, or V1, V2, V3, whatever. And then when I finally feel like I have it, I'll name it final. And then I'll make changes and I'll call it final new, or final final, final final new final, final final new final, final version 2, final final new final, final final final.
Yeah.
Right? It can get really, really confusing. And you're still telling me, if I'm mixing in Studio One and mastering in Studio One, if I see that my issues aren't stuff that mastering can fix, if they're mix issues, I can just open it up in Studio One from there. I can double click it, it opens in Studio One. I can fix it, save. I don't even have to output it. Hit save, open it, go back to my projects tab, and it auto updates it. So that's important if you are mastering a whole bunch of songs, and let's just say you've laid them out on the timeline, like your whole record. You want to have that as a whole record, and let's just say I needed to make an edit at the end of song 3 that might have taken a second and a half off of it. Well, if I give you the new version, either I got to take that second and a half off of it, or you have to remember to do it. Otherwise, when you drag that to your timeline, all your stuff behind it is jacked up, right? And if you've got some automation things written in your mastering, you're screwed. Studio One remembers those edits. So if I made a cut to something or a fade out to something, although my track's longer, I made a fade out and shortened it, it's going to remember that. So I haven't lost all that time on anything behind it. So I can take my whole Studio One deal, and if you and I are both on Studio One Plus and we have the deal where we can share space, I can take my entire album, upload it. If I have Studio One Plus and you have Studio One Plus, which is our subscription base, and it's every piece of software that Presonus makes, I can upload it to the cloud. You can grab it, and you're mastering, and you see something that can be fixed. You can go back in Studio One and just do it. Or when you bring it back up, if there were edits made, it's going to remember those edits. So think about the time saver.
Right.
You know, it's not just the convenience of jumping around in one app. It's, you know, what if real editing happens that can totally jack you up? I mean, I've done a ton of audio editing, but I've done a ton of video editing, and you make some kind of little slip edit, you know, whatever, man, and then all of a sudden your timeline is like, that don't look right, and I can't remember what made it. Man, you know, I just wasted 5 hours, and it's going to take me another 3 hours just to figure out what the heck I did. You know, those kind of things go away when you're using Studio One as a mixing application and as a mastering application.
And I just saw on the website that Studio One is now including some video editing capabilities as well.
Yes,
is that right?
Yes, it is with 6.5. I think it was. Studio One, you can now do it's cuts only. It's not like you can do dissolves or spins or anything like that. But before we would have you could pull a video to the timeline, you could mix, and then you could export that as a QuickTime movie with the new audio. Well, we've taken that a step beyond and included a cuts only video editing with that. And not only since you mentioned video, not only that, Studio One 6.5 Pro added in the ability to do it's Atmos certified. So if I am in Studio One, let's just go back to the song I just had, and I go to my mixer. It's been a while since I did this, but if I go to my preferences, is it in song setup? Yeah, spatial audio. Right now I'm in output stereo, but I can change that to any of these Atmos surround sound. So let's just, for grins and giggles, go to 9.1.6. When I hit OK, it's going to change it to be able to do the full Atmos thing. and then I can model my room. I can choose where the speakers are going to go and all of that, and then I can pan things. Notice my panning's changed. They don't look left to right now. They look 360 degree, and there's one next to it. So I can go this way and this way. So I could do my surround this way, and then I could do my atmospheric. That's all built into Studio One now.
Wow.
We also have the renderer, which allows you. It's called a binaural renderer. With a regular set of stereo headphones. If those of you are old enough to remember this in the late 80s, holophonic sound came out where you would hear all the stuff. It's kind of the same principle, but with Dolby Atmos. I can put headphones on, and I don't need to buy a big old Atmos system. I don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on an atmospheric speaker system. I can do the renderer in regular headphones, and it'll place it there for me. It's crazy. It's like magic. It doesn't work so good with in-ear monitors. It works better with over-the-ear headphones. That comes in Studio One. There are applications that will allow you to buy the renderer, which is more expensive than what Studio One is.
Okay.
Right? This comes within Studio One Pro. So I can mix in an Atmos room, or I can mix on headphones with the surround sound renderer on headphones, and then take it to anywhere, and you got full Dolby Atmos.
Nice.
So that was new with 6.5.
I love it.
Yeah, it's cool. Cool stuff.
And I'm not sure what version this was, included with, but also now I see the ability to export directly to your distribution service.
Yeah.
So now you can directly upload it to either DistroKid, CD Baby, or TuneCore, so that your music is on iTunes and all of the other platforms, Spotify, right immediately when you're done with your music. So you literally don't even have to open a website, close the program. It's all done internally, right within Studio One, which is a big time saver along with everything else.
Yeah, the same thinking that went into mixing and mastering. It's kind of all all in one. We've had the direct link, as I showed earlier, to SoundCloud for a while, but I think what you're talking about, I think that just came out like 6.6.
Okay,
it's really new.
Okay,
so yeah, from the app, boom, you're there publishing to all the different sites. You don't have to like make an MP3 or make it a .aif or WAV or whatever, and then upload it, whatever. It's just straight from there. It's cool.
That's wonderful. Well, I'm definitely going to have to upgrade to the latest version myself so I can take advantage of some of those features.
I know a guy.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we'll talk after the show.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of questions regarding the HD interface, and what we have here is the HD4.
I was using the HD2.
HD2, okay. And so with the HD2, okay, for the reamp feature. So, for example, all right, the output here, right below that input, is that set up in a way so that I don't have to go into the software and configure anything? It's automatically routed, or do I have to configure that output?
Well, no, I mean, to use the reamp feature, you have to route it because this is you're taking an output of the interface and you're sending it somewhere. So which is what I showed there when in Studio One, in the preferences and in the song setup, I went to my audio I/O setup and my outputs. Oh well, this changed because I went to the Atmos thing. But if we were back in the regular stereo thing, I would just create another output. Studio One will name it Sub 1, and I can rename it whatever I want. I can leave it Sub 1, whatever. I can rename it whatever I want. And then I just, in this little patch bay area thing, just click it to go to reamp 1 or 2.
Okay.
And then you take the output and you go to your amplifier or pedal board.
Yeah.
Pedal board with a DI, and you could record it back. Like I've done that with this. I mean, as a bass player, I don't really mic my amp a whole lot. I have a couple of pedals, and then it ends with a DI that's got some EQ and stuff on it, and I can just go XLR back into this and just complete the loop, and it's done. But yeah, you do have to do a little bit of routing when you do it that way. That is a higher level feature that not everyone's gonna use. I mean, this is typically guitar players and bass players, right? More so guitar players.
Okay.
So yeah, you have to create the patch. But again, it's literally that simple. You
Okay.
create an output and you
Right.
route it to reamp, and then you plug it whichever reamp feed that you're sending to. You send that to your amp, and then you mic your amp into another input, and you're done.
Gotcha. So, correct me if I'm wrong. The benefit that I see there is that you can first record the raw guitar signal, and then you can, you know, reamp it later while you're mixing, while you're, choosing what flavors you want, what sound you want, and this way you're not stuck with the original sound
Right.
when you if you just recorded the amp directly
Right.
the first time, right? Is that like basically the idea?
Yeah. I mean, well, there's several facets to it. So let's just say I'm a touring musician. I'm traveling and I'm writing or I'm producing for someone or whatever, and I'm a guitar player. I got an HD2, and I'm in my hotel room, and I know that I want to play this with a Marshall stack and all that kind of stuff. Do I have a Marshall stack in my hotel room? No, but I can use some Ampere plugins and kind of get the sound that would approach that.
Hmm.
I wouldn't record them. I wouldn't put them on the input side. I would put them on the output side,
Hmm.
and then I still have a raw track. Then I can go to my home studio that I would have my Marshall stack, or if I want to go to a high-end studio that's got a room that's known for its guitar sounds, or a studio that's built in an old church or whatever that's got this acoustic flavor that I want, I can take what I recorded in my hotel room and literally reamp it. I don't want to use the word to define the word,
Mhm.
but I can literally come out of it with the correct impedance
Mhm.
into something that's going to look for that impedance, and that's a big one
Oh.
because
Okay.
it's guitar level. It's not microphone level. It's not line level. It's not consumer
Oh.
audio level. It's guitar level,
Okay.
and that's what the amp is going to look for. So it's not going to be noisy and it's not going to be too soft
Oh.
and all of those things. But I can let inspiration guide me when I want inspiration to guide me, when I need inspiration to guide me, and then I can choose the perfect tone for that later.
Okay.
So that's what I was saying earlier.
Right.
Guitar
Right.
players know the struggle. Chord, 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 change the sound. Chord, chord, chord,
Right.
chord, change the sound. The idea's gone
Mhm.
by the time you finally get what you're looking for. You can create that with plugins, get your riff down, get your melodic figure or your chord structure down, and then amp it later,
Right. Okay.
in a proper studio environment I mean,
Mhm.
I might have a loud amp that I want to use, but I can't crank that up in my apartment,
Okay.
but I can at my friend's studio or, something like that. So I can do this later.
Right.
And then again, I don't have to just use one.
Mhm.
I can bring that same thing in and do multiple amplifies. I can do it to a DI. I can run it through a friggin' Leslie if I want, or whatever.
Right.
I mean, like it's endless as long as you got hard drive space. Whatever you can think to run it through, you can run it through.
Mhm.
So it really opens up a lot of possibilities sonically for someone to do something like this.
Awesome. So if I did not have that reamp feature, which most audio interfaces do not have
Yes.
that reamp feature, then I would have to connect it from just a regular line output to an amplifier. But like you said, it would not be the correct impedance.
Yep.
So I would need either a cloud lifter or something else to.
You would need like a 20 dB pad.
Oh, a 20 dB pad.
Yeah.
Okay.
So microphone level is like -50, -65. Instrument level is like -20. Consumer audio is like -10, and then
Mhm.
line level is +4. So if I'm coming out +4 and I'm trying to go into an amplifier, I'm driving that 24 dB hotter than it should be.
Oh.
So
Okay.
I would need a 20 dB pad.
Right. Okay.
So that's the thing. But then I am coming out and going back in. I might have some latency.
Mhm.
This just solves it all in one box. You literally plug it in. I don't have to have anything else, and done.
Awesome. Now, have you heard of anyone, or is it possible to use the reamp feature for maybe audio summing when for mixing, or is that something that I would probably just use the regular outputs, line outputs for.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a real niche thing. I
Okay.
mean, what if? I mean, I'm
Mhm.
just spitballing ideas here. What if I want my Leslie to go through some sort of reverb twin
Gotcha.
stereo device?
Yeah.
I could do the reamp feature
Right.
into that on my Leslie.
Mm.
So I've got a stereo Leslie thing, but I want to see what that would sound like coming through 212s,
Yeah.
the guitar amp. I could use the reamp feature for that because the impedance matches.
So the creativity is all up to us.
Exactly. So the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if I want my main mix to run through some sort of tube amp just to, like,
Right.
again, we're talking boutique-y, we're talking very niche, we're talking very, like, this is a subset of a subset of a genre, but you can.
Mm-hmm.
I could take my stereo mix out because it's just a matter of mapping it to the reamp and boom.
Right. Right. So the other thing that I'm a little curious about is regarding the A to D converters and the D to A converters.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious. Does this interface have newer, better, and improved converters over previous interfaces?
Yes, yes. So
Okay.
this is the very latest in our preamps. We were X-Max and then X-Max 2, I think, and now this is X-Max HD, I think it's called. Super high headroom, super low noise. I think we're talking about like 120 dB or something like that. I don't know that the specs are on the website, and I don't know it right offhand. Forgive me, but the big one is the 75 dB of gain.
Oh yeah.
So think about a previous interface, a Presonus interface with like Studio 2.4C, or even our AudioBox Go. AudioBox Go is a 50 dB of gain device. If I'm using an SM7B, SM7B pretty much requires 60 dB of gain. So if I've got an SM7B and an AudioBox Go, I can't crank it up as loud as it needs to be, and my preamp's wide open. So it's not as loud as it needs to be, and it's noisier than it should be. But if I go to this that's got 75 dB of gain, I can make it as loud as it needs to be, but it's still quieter than it has to be because I still have another 15 dB of headroom. So that's the big thing in the new HD version of the preamps, and they're in all the quantums. They're in all of the new quantums. Lower noise, higher gain.
So, for the audience members watching out there, you can get in contact with us at contact@yrsmidi.com, or you can visit yrsmidi.com. So, the prices for the quantum interfaces, they're starting all the way down from as affordable as $229 US. For the Quantum ES2, then $329 for the Quantum ES4. It's $499 US. That's for the version that we're using here today, the Quantum HD2. And then the Quantum HD8, which is the biggest version, is $999 for those guys that want to record a lot of inputs at the same time. However, I would probably, I'm assuming that the Quantum HD2 and the Quantum HD8 probably have the same or similar sound quality, right?
Yeah.
Or the same converters
all
in
four
both of them.
All four of them across the board.
Okay, so even if you get the ES2, are you getting the same sound quality that you would get with the HD2, just with less inputs?
It's exactly.
Okay.
Less inputs. Well, I take that back because the ES4 has 4 inputs.
Okay.
This has 2, but this has a reamp feature. This adds in
Oh.
ADAT optical, which we kind of touched on earlier. This is expandable because of the ADAT. This is not. So that's kind of the trade-off. This is kind of more of a desktop thing. This could be a desktop unit as well, but there's no expandability with the ES. and the ES doesn't have the reamp feature. The HD series is it's expandable and it's got reamp. And then with each of these included with the interface is depending on which one you get, is the Studio One hybrid.
Oh.
So the ES interfaces, and I'm going to look to someone here in the audience to help me. The ES interfaces is 6 months of Studio One hybrid, Studio One Plus, which is it? But does it include hybrid with that? Yes. Yeah, and then the HDs is a year of the Studio One hybrid. So. Well, that's what hybrid is. So what that is so we used to have Studio One Artist, then Studio One Pro, and then we started Studio One Presonus Sphere, which became Studio One Plus. We've added a new feature, Studio One Hybrid. So the ES versions, for 6 months, you own everything. You have access to every piece of software that Presonus makes. At the end of 6 months, let's just say we're on 6.6 right now. Let's just say 6 months from now, and don't take this to the bank. I don't know if and when it would come out, but let's just say we're on Studio One 7.1. At the end of 6 months, you already have 7.1. At the end of 6 months, you now own 7.1 in perpetuity. At the end of 6 months, that's with the ES. You no longer have all the access to all the other things, but you still have a perpetual license to Studio One. The HD is the same thing, but it's for a year. So you have Studio One Plus, every piece of software we make, and I mean, I did the written notes stuff in the MIDI. I can actually send that to a program called Notion, which we make. That's a music notational software. I can create entire scores in Notion. I can do it from my iPad. You would get all of that as well for a year. And then you would have whatever version of Studio One you are at the end of that. That is what you stay with as a perpetual. So that comes with the interfaces as an added value.
Awesome. So I'm looking at these. Is this the Eris?
That's the Eris
Studio
8. Yep.
Wow. And I'm looking at the price on the website. Do you remember what the retail price is? Because
I don't.
Okay, it says is it $199 or $249?
The Studio 8, Angel.
Yep.
Studio series. Eris Studio 8.
Wow. Honestly, I had to ask these guys to make sure because that seems very affordable. Such a low price that I almost cannot believe it. I'm with such a low price, I'm a little concerned about what type of sound quality am I going to get? Because, I have other monitors that are the same size as these, but they're more expensive, but I've heard so many great things about the Presonus monitors, and for such a low price, that's amazing. Is this a new version, or when were these?
Yeah,
versions?
we did a refresh of the Eris series about a year ago. That was the actual first product launched after the Fender takeover, the Fender acquisition. We refreshed our entire Eris line. So media reference, which is the 3.5, 4.5, that all became just known as Eris. And then Eris XT became Eris Studio. And then we used to have the Scepters, which were the coaxial dual concentric. That is now Eris Pro.
Okay.
And those are amazing. I love them.
Okay.
Yeah, they're Atmos capable. So
Wow.
I mean, you could do the full surround, and they come in a 4, a 6, and an 8. These are a 4, a 5, and an 8. So a couple of things about this, just that's worth noting.
Mm-hmm.
We use Silk Dome tweeters.
Wow.
And everybody likes to argue why they use their components. Silk Dome, it's been shown in tests that over the course of time, if you're listening to something over the course of time, you get ear fatigue. Plastic drivers, metal drivers, Just think about that. You can just think about it
Mhm.
versus silk. They're a little harsher. Not much, but over the course of time, the ear fatigue can set in.
Yeah.
So the silk dome is a little easier on your ears. So if you're doing a lot of listening for a
Oh.
longer time,
Wow,
and
that's
then
very important.
and then we use composite woofers, the low frequency drivers.
Oh, yeah?
Um, we're not supposed to use the word Kevlar because that
Mhm.
is that they're not Kevlar.
Not Kevlar.
Um, it's woven composite, the same thing that Kevlar is, but it's not Kevlar.
It's not Kevlar.
So, and that is the kind of the paper versus plastic argument. Paper cone drivers are very fast. They're very efficient because it doesn't take a lot of energy to get them to move, right? Inertia. They're also very quick to stop, but they're not punchy like plastic because plastic's very rigid. Plastic's inefficient because it's heavier. It's harder to get it to move, so you need more power. But also in a low frequency driver, it's one thing to get it to move, but it's another thing to get it to stop moving. So if I've got, in the case of this, boom, 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 that was my bass line. You don't want boom, boom, boom. You want it to stop. So that requires a lot more power. The woven composite has the mass of paper, but it has the rigidity of plastic. So it's a good combination of the two. It's super efficient. It gives you the punch that approaches plastic, but it gives you the efficiency that approaches paper. So that's kind of why we chose the components that we did.
And that's amazing, and that's everything. You know, is regarding. That's what makes a speaker great, sound great, are the components that are used for everything there. And this is 8 inches, guys. By the way, this is an 8-inch woofer with tweeter, and it has a dedicated bass port on the bottom. So, that's an amazingly powerful system right there. And would you happen to know what the outside is kind of?
That's OSB with the little the melamine, means the kind of vinyl type, formica type, covering. Phono input, tip ring sleeve input, and XLR. You got some EQ on the back. You also have modeling. You can choose how they're oriented, whether it's like this or like this or whatever. You can choose that on the back and some different detinted things just to help you tune your room right out of the box.
So to get straight to the point here, for maybe some of the people watching that may not understand all of the specific details that we're speaking here, you need this equipment, these Presonus monitors and this Presonus interface in order for you to produce high quality music, no matter where you are, whether you are building a studio at home, you're building a studio in an office, or even if you're taking your studio on the road. Okay, these are components that are 100% necessary for you to produce beats. You can record, because with a lot of audio interfaces, when you record, it does not capture the full sound quality, but this audio interface captures the full sound quality of your recording, so that even if you're not going to mix it yourself, you can be sure that when you send it off to be mixed, it is going to retain the quality that needs to be retained, so that it can be mixed and mastered appropriately. And so these monitors and this system can also be used for professional mixing and mastering, or for you guys that need something in between your high-end professional studio and you're somewhere else. Well, use this in between your two systems to maintain that high level of quality and not compromise. So we're going to bring the boss on the stage right now, and yeah, this is George York, runs YRS Studio, and in business for 35 years, and he's an expert that we're glad to have on our team as well.
Get my dress for the job here. I signing off? Is that the idea, or am I just saying how happy I am that we had the product specialist and Jason, what is your title again? Your official title?
Business Development Manager.
Business Development Manager came all the way from the big city to a little Castleberry here, and Richard Gaspar, the product specialist, who did excellent, by the way.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Very comprehensive, and I had a few questions. He answered everything, and Angel was particularly effective in noticing the details and the particulars about the product line, which he's obviously very enthusiastic about, but with good reason. And that's not just a sales hype. You know, I'm a car salesman and got to make that sale, but the facts, the specifications, and of course the final evaluation is, what does it sound like? So for all the reasons that you had pointed out, and that was quite impressive, really. I wasn't expecting that, and that was a real thorough presentation after the demonstration of the value of the equipment, which is excellent. So of course I confirm that myself and reiterate what has been said. And I guess this is the end of our broadcast. Our first broadcast, by the way, in over 2 years. So I guess we have to make or I should make an apology or an explanation at least to Jason and Richard, because after more than 2 years, this is our first live broadcast, and we like doing this. Where we have a live audience who can actually participate and make remarks, and everything is broadcast live. So we're not taking this, what you're seeing is not after the editor. You know, there's a lot of reasons why.
We would have edited out a few of my notes if that was the case.
Actually, though, you know, there's a real advantage in not doing that.
Yeah.
Because if everything is perfect and flawless,
Yeah, it's not real.
People can question the validity, you know, or the accuracy of the presentation. So we like doing the live presentation. So the apology is that we started so late, and you know, Angel knows that. Errol knows for sure, because he's been one of the participants in our live broadcast. And Mike, I mentioned this to you. Every time we set up for a broadcast, we've done over 200 of them.
Wow.
So we got pretty effective and efficient at it. And I pulled everything from the back after making the move from our old building, which we were at for almost 35 years. And everything was all neatly wrapped up and ready to go, just like always, except when everything came out of the box from storage, and we tried the first broadcast since 2 years ago, more than 2 years ago. Everything was wrong. The wrong connections, wrong connectors. It was the wrong side. It was the left. It was the right. And anyway, so sorry for that. But
Oh man, no apologies needed.
Well,
I'm honored to be like part of the first, you know, the one bringing it back. And
yeah,
look,
that's great. And it was
my-
a good way to get to kick it off and to begin again. And Angel, you did great.
my body's still on
thank-
Central Time Zone, so it's 8:25 to me, you know, so I'm good.
Okay, perfect. So final thanks again to everybody that came out. There was some people earlier that had to leave, but I got to tell Mike's story. On Meetup, which we have our dates broadcast or posted, Mike comes out. This was last week. He goes, "Hi, I'm here for the meeting." I'm here for the live broadcast. And I said, oh, I'm terribly sorry. It's not tonight. We haven't done a live broadcast for more than 2 years. And he actually went to the location of our old building, which is now no longer exists. And it was a sand pile. Am I right about that?
Oh, yeah.
There was no clue that there was a building there, right? Completely gone, obliterated. Anyway, so Mike, thank you, and for all the people that continue to follow us. Now we are here. We're moved in, and we've done a live broadcast again after 2 years. It took us forever to get it going, but anyway, and I think its quality, by the way, is quite good. I was listening to it and everything, so well done on that. But at any rate, thank you so much, Jason. This was your idea, and suggested that that we do this. We were going to be in town, so I wanted to jump on that, despite the fact that we're not 100% actually completed with some of the construction and so forth. So thank you, Jason, for that. I really appreciate it. And Richard, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Great. Enjoyed the presentation, and I'm sure a lot of people appreciate that and got a lot out of it. My good friend Errol and Cheryl, Venus, for being here, and for everybody else that showed up. Mike, thank you. And we don't have a date yet for our next live broadcast, but I think we're going to start doing we're going to do the two a month or so, like every other week. We're going to do that and keep going like that. But we will post that and advertise it properly, and basically get back in the groove again. So the final note is, we're here, we're back. Come and see us in our new place. We're really proud of it, and bigger, better, newer, nicer, and so we look forward to the very next one. And we'll be. This is a departure from our usual broadcast, which those of you who've been to them before know that it's 100% interactive, and there's audience participation, and we actually compose a song from zero to completion during the live broadcast. And the whole thing is broadcast, no editing. So it's pretty interesting, and definitely worth checking out, and even more so worth being here. And am I right about that? Did you've enjoyed the time here that you were here? Yeah. So anyway, for those of you that tuned in online, great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the support and hanging in there with us, and keep a watch for our next one, which we will. Mike, I promise you, we'll advertise with the correct address, and do this again back on a regular basis, kind of like back in the saddle again. So onward and upward from now on.
Richard, any
until
final
next time?
notes on any final notes from Presonus? Contact information, anything? Presonus.com.
Presonus.com.
Yeah.
I do a series of videos on YouTube. If you have mixer customers, I do a series called Studio Live Snapshots. You can just do a YouTube search, Studio Live Snapshots, and we just started it this year. I've got 12 of them. They're very short, just like one chop each. I just shot another 15, and we're just going to keep adding to them every quarter. So it's all about Series 3 mixers. So we're getting quite a bit of viewership from that. And so if you're interested in any of our mixers, go ahead and check that out. But Presonus.com, and come and visit your friends here at YRS MIDI.
Thanks, Richard. And what's the name of your series again on YouTube?
Studio Live Snapshots.
Studio Live Snapshots.
Yep.
And Richard and.
You could probably, you probably put my name in there. Gaspard is my last name,
Okay.
Gaspard. That might, that and $1.50 get you a cup of coffee, but
Not at Starbucks.
not at Starbucks.
Jason, any words from The big boss, you want to impart anything?
you, sir.
Well, thank you. You know that likewise. I mean, this was, like I said, this was your idea actually, and honestly, and I think I had even mentioned this. Well, we're not really finished construction yet, and nobody's properly moved in, and I don't know if we're ready for that. But anyway, I definitely wanted to to do this because we want to get back into the program too. So we promise we will properly advertise and promote these. And once again, for those of you that have not or just tuned in and got an eyeful and an earful of this, what we're doing is quite a bit different on our regular sessions. We actually compose a song, so that means the people in the live audience, and using VST Connect, we have people from a remote location, could be anywhere in the world as long as they're online, who will actually record into our sessions as well. So it's pretty interesting, and it's worth checking it out. I think you'll enjoy it. So until next time, thank you so much. For those of you that joined online, for those of you came in person, thank you so much. And Richard, excellent. Thank you once again. Jason, great idea. My special thanks to you for that. And Angel, you did an excellent job. All the technical stuff looks like it's great. And as the host, well done. Till next time. Angel, any final words?
No, that's it.
Okay.
We're good.
Thank you so much.